In the depths of
Hello, my
darkness,
dear
the soul
brothers
stirs,
and
a
sisters.
quiet
My
whisper in
name
the
is
void.
Naomi,
A profound journey
and what I'm
begins
about to
as
share
shadows
with
cling,
you
yet a faint
is
hope
not
ignites
something
within.
I say
The
lightly.
chains once binding
I
now
lived
shatter
many
and
years
fall away,
inside
their
darkness.
fragments dissolving
I
into
was
the
not just
encroaching
a
light.
curious
This
observer.
liberation marks the
I
first
was
step
deeply
towards clarity.
involved. I was
Shimmering
part
mirrors
of
light
rituals,
appear,
covens,
reflecting
and
brilliant beams
spiritual
that symbolize
manipulations
profound
that
clarity
most
and
people
self-discovery.
don't
These
even
radiant
realize
reflections
exist.
dance,
And
guiding the
today,
way forward.
I need you to
A
listen
glowing
very
ancient Bible
carefully
appears center
because the
frame,
last
open
7
to a
days of
radiant page.
March
Its presence is a beacon,
2026
a source
are
of
not
profound
ordinary
wisdom
days.
and divine truth.
There is
Ethereal
something
light
many
rises from the
people
pages like a
don't
sacred mist,
understand
spreading
about time.
holy illumination
Time
outward,
is not just
transforming the
passing.
surroundings.
It is
Spiritual
observed in
awakening
the
blooms,
spiritual
identity
realm.
found in divine
Certain
light,
periods
a
of the year
serene and radiant
are
realm.
like open doors, and others are like closing gates. And the final 7 days of March are what we used to call
even in the shadow,
the sealing
light
window.
cannot be overcome.
It is the
We watch
time when
and we wait.
decisions, agreements, and spiritual alignments are
The
locked
word
in
stands firm,
for the
a
rest of
beacon
the
on the
year.
rock of ages.
When I was
Silence
still
holds
part of
air,
the
a
coven,
held breath before the trumpet
we
sounds.
prepared weeks in advance for this exact period. We fasted,
The seals
not for
break.
God,
The mysteries of
but
old
to
begin
sharpen our
unfold before
spiritual
our eyes.
sensitivity.
Thunder rolls.
We wrote
not
names.
of rain, but of
We
judgment
spoke
and
intentions.
redemption.
We made declarations over people who didn't even know
For the
they were
darkness is
being
fleeing, and the
targeted.
day is at
And
hand.
I remember
Be
one
ready. The time
chilling
is now.
truth our leader said, "Whatever is not claimed by light in
Under
these
silent winter
days
sky,
becomes
ancient city
vulnerable
sleeps
to
in midnight
darkness."
blues and moonlight.
That sentence
Snow blanket
stayed with me
structures awaiting
because I
foretold
saw it
moment.
happen.
Time,
I saw
fragile
people
vessel,
who
slowly
entered
empties.
April
Hourglass
confused,
sands dissolve
drained,
into ethereal
and
light,
lost,
marking era's
and they
end,
never
culmination of
understood
waiting.
why
On
their
weathered
year
tower,
kept
ancient
collapsing.
clock frozen at divine
What
hour.
they didn't know
Signifies
was that
sacred pause,
the
profound
battle had
transition.
already
Whisper
been
of change.
decided
Deep indigo
in the
night yields
last
to rosy
days
pinks
of March.
and oranges painting
Let me
horizon,
tell you
heralding
something
new
very
dawn.
important.
Golden light breaks
The
through
enemy
parting
does
clouds,
not wait
casting rays
until
across awakening
problems
city.
appear in
Divine
your life.
illumination reveals
It works
truth
ahead
and
of
purpose.
time. It
Against
plants
glorious light,
seeds before the
radiant cross
season
emerges,
even
beacon of
begins.
hope and eternal
So
promise.
when you are
Fulfills
crying
ancient
in
prophecies.
June or
Ancient
struggling
scrolls
in
unfurl,
September,
their wisdom
the root
illuminated
may
by
have been
golden light.
established
Speak of
right
divine
now.
timing now manifest.
In these
Finally,
final days of
solemn church
March.
bells echo
And
through
that
dawn,
is why I
calling
am
awakening.
speaking to you
Long night
today.
past, divine guided
Not to
new day
scare you,
begins.
In
but to
realms
wake you
beyond
up.
our sight, a
Because
sacred
if
truth
darkness
unfolds,
uses
speaking
these
of divine
days
election and
strategically,
eternal choice.
then you
Before
must
time began,
respond
a profound
even more
purpose was set,
intentionally.
guiding
I
destinies
remember
with
one
unwavering
particular
grace.
ritual night.
These ancient
It
texts,
was March
imbued with
28th.
celestial light,
The
reveal
room was
timeless
dimly
wisdom
lit,
of a higher plan.
candles
From the
arranged in a
heavens,
circle.
rays of pure
Each of
light
us had a
descend,
list,
illuminating a singular
names
path
of people
through the
whose
deepest
lives we
darkness.
wanted to
Each
influence.
particle of light,
Some
a
for
testament to
control,
divine intention,
some for
guides the chosen
confusion,
journey
some
with
for
gentle
stagnation.
radiance. The
And
unrolling
I remember
scrolls
being
unveil
told to
truths,
whisper
while the path
over
of
the
light
list,
beckons towards an eternal
"Let
destiny.
their year
This
follow this
sacred
path."
journey, marked by
And
divine
do you know
selection,
what terrified
leads
me
to a
later?
future secured by grace.
It worked.
Embrace
Not
the
always
profound
instantly,
mystery of election,
but
a
gradually,
testament to enduring
relationships
love and
broke.
sovereign will.
Finances
For in this
dried
eternal
up,
choice,
peace
the promise
disappeared,
of everlasting belonging
and the
is forever
victims
sealed.
never
Before time
traced
began,
it back
in an infinite cosmic
because
void,
they
a
didn't know the
profound
timing
purpose was
mattered.
already set in motion.
But here is
From
the
this
truth
timeless
that
darkness,
changed
the first
everything
sparks of
for
creation
me.
ignited,
What
bringing
is
forth
declared
shimmering
in
metallic
darkness
gold stars.
can be
Swirling
overturned in
clouds
light.
of iridescent
And the
gas
same
and
way,
hyper-detailed
we
nebulae
used
began
those
to form,
7 days
painting the
for
cosmos
evil.
with vibrant hues.
You can use them
Amidst
for
this
protection,
grand cosmic ballet,
restoration,
a new world
and
began to take
authority.
shape,
So
forming
what
from
must you
molten
do?
rock and swirling
The
elements.
first thing,
As the planet
and
cooled,
I need you
vast
to take
oceans
this
of marbled
seriously,
blues began to form,
is intentional
transforming the fiery
awareness.
sphere into
Most
a
people
vibrant,
enter these
living
last
world.
days
Above this
distracted,
newly formed earth,
scrolling,
a glowing, intricate
complaining,
cross-shaped
living
light
casually,
materialized, symbolizing
spiritually,
divine order and
this is
purpose.
not a casual
This celestial
moment.
sign affirmed a
This is a
timeless truth.
decisive
A
window.
divine plan was woven
You
into
cannot
the very
afford to
fabric
be
of creation,
spiritually
even
asleep.
before the world's foundation.
You must
In
become
a world
alert.
of constant change,
You must begin
some
to
symbols
observe
stand as
your
unwavering
thoughts,
beacons of hope
your
and
environment,
resilience.
your
The ocean's
emotions.
vastness mirrors
Because
life's
attacks
challenges,
during
with
this
waves
time
rising
are
and
often
falling,
subtle.
testing our resolve.
Sudden
Yet,
discouragement,
amidst the gathering storm,
strange
the
fatigue,
lighthouse
unusual
remains firm, a
arguments.
testament to enduring
These are
strength.
not
At its
coincidences.
pinnacle, a
They
radiant
are
cross
distractions
glows with a warm,
designed
golden light,
to
piercing
disconnect
through the
you
encroaching
from
darkness.
what you should be
Inside,
doing.
an open Bible
The
emanates a
second
soft,
thing you must
guiding
do
light,
is
illuminating
clean
the
your
path forward.
spiritual space.
This inner light, a
When I
symbol
say
of divine
this,
wisdom,
I don't
prepares
mean
us for whatever
rituals or
trials may
strange
come.
practices.
As the waves grow stronger,
I mean
our
removing
resolve is
anything
fortified by faith
that gives
and
darkness
preparedness.
legal ground.
Standing firm,
In the
we find
coven,
strength
we
and
were
guidance,
always looking
even as
for
the storm
entry
begins to
points.
form around us. Begin a
Unforgiveness,
journey of separation to
hidden
God,
sin,
lit by divine
negative
light and
declarations.
darkness. In deep
These
shadows,
things were
a
like
narrow
open
golden
doors
orange
to
path
us.
beckons the soul
So
forward.
ask yourself
The air hints at
honestly,
spiritual
is
transformation.
there
The path
anything
shows
in your
challenges,
life
thorny bushes
that you
with dew
know
along
is not
edges
right?
cast shadows.
Because
Yet it
these
remains
final
bright,
days
testifying to
are not
unwavering
just
faith,
about
choosing
asking for
holiness over
blessings.
worldly distractions.
They are
The
about
journey
closing
symbolizes
doors.
consecrations,
I
trials,
remember
and
once being
purification.
assigned
Intentional steps
to
lead
observe
from
a
shadows
woman.
to higher calling.
She prayed
The narrow
daily.
path, a
She
beacon of
believed
hope,
she was
guides the spirit
protected,
through life's
but
wilderness
she
to
held
divine
deep
purpose.
bitterness
Finally,
in her
a radiant
heart,
altar glowing
and
with
that
pure
bitterness
light and leaping
became
flames
the
appears.
access point
It
we
represents
used,
separation's end
not
and
her
consecration's
weakness,
beginning.
but
The
her
altar
unhealed
fire
wound.
symbolizes divine
And this
presence
is why
and
I'm telling
purification,
you,
inviting devotion.
forgiveness
The altar
is not
testifies to a
optional
life
in this
consecrated to
season.
God, set apart.
It is
Its light
protection.
pierces shadows,
The third thing
signifying
you
victory
must
over
do
darkness
is
and
speak
peace
over
in
your
divine
year.
communion. This
In the
is
coven,
holiness, a
we
beacon for those
understood
seeking
the
deeper
power of
spiritual
words
connection.
more
In the
than
journey of
many
life,
believers
trials
do.
often serve as
Words
a
are
crucible,
not just
refining
sounds.
us like precious
They
metals.
are agreements.
Just as raw gold
They are
must
seeds.
endure intense heat,
And whatever
our
is
spirits
spoken
are purified through the fires of
consistently
adversity.
begins to
This
take
divine
form.
fire,
So
not
during these
chaotic,
7
but
days,
purposeful,
you must
transforms
not be
imperfections
silent.
into strength
You
and
must
beauty.
declare life.
Slowly, magically,
Even if you
the
don't
molten
feel
gold
it,
begins to
speak
take
it.
on a new form,
Even if things
shedding its
look opposite,
impurities.
speak
From
it.
the heart of the purifying
Say,
flames
"My
emerges
year
a
is
symbol
covered.
of victory and
My
divine
path is
craftsmanship."
secured.
The flames
No
gently
weapon
recede,
formed against me will
revealing the
prosper.
exquisite detail of
Because
a perfectly
silence
crafted
creates
golden
a
crown.
vacuum,
Resting upon
and
an
something
ancient
will
stone
always
altar,
fill
it
it.
signifies
And
triumph
trust
over
me,
adversity and
darkness is
spiritual refinement.
always ready to
Light
fill
glints off
silence.
its polished surface,
The fourth
a
thing
testament to perseverance
is something
and
we
the glory
feared
of
the most
purification.
when I was
This
in the
crown,
coven.
forged in fire,
Focused
stands
prayer,
as a beacon of hope and
not
a promise
distracted
of eternal
prayer,
victory.
not
Through
rushed
trials,
prayer,
we are
but
not broken,
intentional,
but transformed,
targeted prayer.
emerging stronger and
Because
more radiant.
whenever someone
ancient
began to
doors,
pray
weathered by time,
consistently
begin their
during
slow,
this period,
deliberate creak, they
we would
reveal
feel
a profound
resistance.
journey ahead.
It was like trying to write on a surface that kept being
illuminating
wiped
countless
clean.
dust motes dancing in
That
the
is
air,
the power of
creating a
prayer
divine and
when it is
ethereal
done
atmosphere.
with awareness.
This radiant light
And
guides our
this
path
is where
forward,
many
symbolizing
people
the divine
miss it.
illumination
They
that
pray
accompanies
randomly.
steps of faith and obedience.
But this is a time for
Along this sacred
specificity.
path,
Pray
banners marked
over
with
your
Christian crosses
finances.
gently sway
Pray
in a
over your
soft,
health.
unseen wind,
Pray over your
representing
family.
unwavering faith.
Pray over
Each
your
sway
decisions.
of the banner and every
Because
step
what you
forward
cover
signifies
now
a commitment to
will
bold
not
obedience,
easily be
trusting
touched
in the
later.
unseen guidance.
I remember
The
one
journey
man,
unfolds
we
with
tried
cinematic
repeatedly
depth,
to
inviting us
influence
to
his
embrace
life,
the path ahead with
but
courage
every
and conviction.
attempt failed.
This continuous movement
Do you know why?
symbolizes the ongoing
Because
journey of
during this
obedience and
exact
faith, where
period,
each step reveals
he had
more of the
already
divine
covered
purpose.
everything in prayer.
Embrace the light,
We
follow
called
the
it
path,
a
and walk
sealed
in bold
life.
obedience. For
And
the
that
journey
is
of
what I
faith
want
is
for
ever
you.
unfolding.
A
In the
year that
depths
is
of
sealed,
darkness, the
not
soul
by
stirs,
fear,
a
but by
quiet whisper in
authority.
the void. A
Now
profound
listen
journey
carefully,
begins as shadows
because
cling,
what I'm
yet a
about
faint
to
hope
say
ignites within.
is something
The
most people
chains once
ignore.
binding now shatter and
The
fall
fifth
away,
thing
their
you must
fragments
do
dissolving into the
is
encroaching light.
disconnect from
This
spiritual
liberation marks
noise.
the first step
During
towards
these
clarity,
last days,
shimmering
your
mirrors of
attention
light
matters.
appear, reflecting
you
brilliant
watch,
themes that symbolize
what you
profound
listen
clarity
to,
and
what you
self-discovery.
engage with,
These radiant
because
reflections
not
dance,
everything is
guiding the way
neutral.
forward.
Some
A glowing
content drains
ancient
you,
Bible appears center
some
frame,
opens
open to a
doors.
radiant page.
Some
Its
plant
presence is a
seeds you
beacon,
don't
a
even
source of
notice.
profound wisdom
And
and divine
in the
truth.
coven,
Ethereal
we
light
relied
rises from the
heavily
pages
on
like a
distraction.
sacred mist, spreading
we
holy
couldn't attack
illumination
directly,
outward,
we
transforming the
distracted,
surroundings.
because
Spiritual
a
awakening
distracted
blooms,
person will
identity
not
found in
guard
divine
their
light,
ear.
a
So
serene
limit the
and
noise.
radiant realm.
Create quiet. Give yourself space to focus. Because
The
clarity
skies
is a
darken, and
weapon.
the winds begin
And
to
in
whisper
these
of things
7
to come.
days,
Yet,
you need
even in the
clarity
shadow, the
more
light
than
cannot
ever.
be overcome.
I
We
know
watch
this
and
may
we wait.
sound intense, but I'm telling you from experience, this
The
is
word
real.
stands firm,
I
a
lived
beacon
on the other
rock of
side of
ages.
it.
Silence
I
holds the air,
participated in
a held
it,
breath before the
and I
trumpet sounds.
saw the results. But I also saw something more powerful. I
The
saw
seals break.
what
The
happens
mysteries of old begin to
when
unfold
someone
before our
rises in
eyes.
awareness
Thunder rolls,
and
not
takes
of rain,
authority
but of
over
judgment
their
and
life.
redemption.
Everything changes. And in these final days of March, you still
The
have
darkness
time.
is fleeing, and the
Time
day
to
is at
reset.
hand. Be ready.
Time to
The time is
realign.
now.
Time to secure what the rest of your year will look like.
Under
But you
silent
must
winter
act
sky,
now,
ancient
not
city
tomorrow,
sleeps in midnight
not next
blues
week,
and moonlight.
now,
Snow blanket
because the
structures
window is
awaiting
already
foretold
open,
moment. Time,
and it will
fragile
not
vessel,
stay
slowly
open
empties.
forever.
Hourglass
Hello
sands
again,
dissolve
my
into
dear brothers
ethereal
and
light,
sisters.
marking era's
It's
end,
Naomi.
culmination of waiting.
If you are
On
still
weathered
here,
tower, ancient clock
it means
frozen
something
at divine
inside
hour.
you knows
Signifies sacred
this
pause,
message is
profound
not
transition,
ordinary.
whisper of change.
And I
Deep
want you
indigo
to
night
stay with
yields to
me,
rosy pinks,
because
and
what I'm
oranges
about to
painting
reveal
horizon,
now,
heralding new dawn.
these were the
Golden light
deeper
breaks
strategies
through parting clouds,
we used
casting
in the
rays
coven
across
during the
awakening
final
city.
days
Divine
of
illumination
March.
reveals truth
Strategies
and purpose.
designed
Against glorious
to
light,
shape
radiant
entire
cross emerges,
destinies.
beacon of hope
With would
and eternal
people
promise.
even realizing
Fulfills
it?
ancient
The
prophecies.
sixth thing
Ancient
you must
scrolls
do
unfurl,
in these
their
last
wisdom
7
illuminated by
days
golden light.
is
Speak of
something we
divine
fear
timing now
deeply.
manifest.
Whenever
Finally,
we saw
solemn
it in
church bells
someone's
echoed
life,
through dawn,
it is
calling
intentional
awakening.
fasting
Long night
with
passed,
purpose.
divine guided new day
Now
begins.
listen carefully,
In realms
because
beyond our sight,
fasting
a
is
sacred
often
truth unfolds.
misunderstood.
Speaking of divine
In the
election and
coven,
eternal
we
choice,
fasted to
before
weaken
time
the
began,
flesh
a profound
and
purpose
strengthen
was
our
set,
focus
guiding
in the
destinies with
spiritual
unwavering
realm.
grace.
But
These
when
ancient
someone
texts,
fasted
imbued with
while
celestial
aligning
light,
themselves
reveal the
with
timeless
God,
wisdom of a higher
it
plan.
created a
From
kind
the
of
heavens, rays of
resistance
pure light
we
descend,
could not
illuminating a
easily
singular path
penetrate.
through the deepest darkness.
Fasting is not
Each
about
particle of
starving
light,
yourself.
a testament
It
to
is
divine
about
intention,
separating yourself,
guides the chosen journey with
separating
gentle
from
radiance.
distractions,
The unrolling
separating
scrolls
from
unveil
dependence on
truths,
comfort,
while the path of light
separating
beckons towards
from
an eternal
everything
destiny.
that dulls
This
your
sacred journey, marked
sensitivity.
by divine selection,
Because
leads
during
to a
these
future
final
secured by
days,
grace.
clarity
Embrace
is
the
everything.
profound mystery of
When you
election,
fast
a
with
testament to
intention,
enduring love and
your
sovereignty.
awareness sharpens.
For in this eternal
You
choice,
begin to
the
notice
promise
things
of
you
everlasting
ignored before.
belonging is forever
You
sealed.
become more
Before time
disciplined,
began,
more
in an infinite
focused,
cosmic void,
more
a
grounded.
profound purpose
And
was
that
already
state
set in
makes
motion.
it
From this
extremely
timeless
difficult
darkness,
for
the first
confusion,
sparks of creation
manipulation,
ignited, bringing
or
forth
negativity
shimmering
to take
metallic
root.
gold stars.
I
Swirling
remember
clouds
one
of
time
iridescent gas
we were
and
trying to
hyper-detailed
influence
nebulae
a
began
young
to form,
woman's
painting the
decisions.
cosmos with vibrant
But
hues.
suddenly,
Amidst this
everything
grand
we
cosmic
sent toward
battle,
her
a new world
seemed to
began
lose
take shape,
direction.
forming from molten
It was
rock
like
and
hitting a
swirling
wall
elements.
we
As
couldn't
the planet
see.
cooled,
Later,
vast
we
oceans of
discovered
marbled blues began
she
to
had
form,
entered a personal
transforming the
fast
fiery sphere
during
into
those
a vibrant,
exact
living
days.
world. Above
That's
this
when I
newly formed
realized
Earth, a
fasting
glowing,
is not
intricate
weakness.
cross-shaped light
It is
materialized,
power.
symbolizing divine
The seventh
order
thing
and
you
purpose.
must do
This
is
celestial
break
sign affirmed
negative
a timeless
agreements.
truth. A divine
This is
plan was
something
woven
very
into
few
the
people
very fabric of
understand.
creation, even
Not
before the
every
world's foundation.
agreement is
In a world
spoken
of
out
constant
loud.
change, some
Some are
symbols
formed
stand as
through repeated
unwavering beacons
thoughts,
of hope and
through
resilience.
fear,
The ocean's
through things
vastness
you've
mirrors
accepted
life's
as
challenges,
normal.
with waves rising
In
and
the
falling,
coven,
testing our resolve.
we didn't always
Yet,
need
amidst
your
the gathering
permission
storm, the lighthouse
directly.
remains firm.
If
a
you
testament
believed
to
something
enduring
negative,
strength.
about
its
yourself
pinnacle, a
long
radiant cross
enough,
glows with a
it
warm,
became
golden
an
light,
agreement.
piercing through the
I
encroaching
will
darkness.
never succeed.
Inside, an open
Things
Bible
always
emanates
go
a
wrong
soft,
for me.
guiding light,
I am
illuminating the
stuck.
path forward. This
Those
inner
thoughts
light, a
are not
symbol of divine
harmless.
wisdom,
They are
prepares us for
signatures.
whatever trials may
And
come.
during these
As the
last
waves
days
grow
of
stronger,
March,
our resolve
those
is fortified by
signatures
faith
can
and
be
preparedness.
reinforced
Standing
or
firm, we
completely
find strength
erased.
and guidance,
So
even as the
you
storm
must
begins
begin
to
to
form around
reject
us.
every
Begin a journey
negative
of separation
agreement
to God,
you've made,
lit by divine light
consciously
in darkness.
or
In deep
unconsciously.
shadows,
Speak
a narrow
against it,
golden-orange path
replace it,
beckons the soul
cancel it,
forward. The air hints at
because
spiritual
if you
transformation.
don't,
The
it
path
will
shows
try to
challenges,
follow you
thorny bushes with
into
dew
the
along
rest
edges
of
cast
your year.
shadows. Yet it
I
remains
remember
bright,
being taught this
testifying
clearly.
to unwavering faith,
People
choosing
don't
holiness
need to
over
be
worldly
cursed
distractions.
if they
The
agree
journey
with
symbolizes
limitation.
consecrations, trials, and
And that
purification.
truth shook me,
Intentional steps lead
because
from
it
shadows
meant
to higher
many
calling.
people
The narrow
were being
path, a
held
beacon
back,
of hope, guides
not
the
by
spirit
attacks,
through life's wilderness to
but by
divine
beliefs
purpose.
they never
Finally,
questioned.
a radiant altar
The eighth
glowing
thing
with
you
pure
must
light
do
and leaping flames
is restore
appears.
your
It
identity.
represents separations
In the
and
coven,
consecrations
one of the
beginning.
most
The
effective
altar fire
ways to
symbolizes
weaken
divine
someone
presence and
was to
purification,
make them
inviting
forget
devotion.
who
The
they
altar
were.
testifies to a life
Confusion of
consecrated to God,
identity
set apart.
leads to
Its light
confusion of
pierces
direction,
shadows, signifying
and a
victory
person
over
who
darkness
doesn't
and
know
peace in
who
divine
they
communion.
are
This is
cannot
holiness, a
stand with
beacon for those
authority.
seeking deeper
So
spiritual
during these
connection.
last
In the
days,
journey of life,
you must
trials
remind
often
yourself
serve as a crucible,
you are not
refining us like
random.
precious metals.
You are not
Just as raw
forgotten.
gold must
You
endure
are not
intense
powerless.
heat, our spirits are
Because
purified
when
through
you
the fires
truly
of adversity.
understand your
This divine
identity,
fire, not
fear
chaotic
loses
but purposeful,
its grip.
transforms
And when
imperfections
fear is
into
gone,
strength and beauty.
control
Slowly,
becomes impossible.
magically, the molten
I
gold
remember
begins to
watching
take on a
certain
new form,
individuals.
shedding its impurities.
No matter
From
what
the
we
heart of the
tried,
purifying flames
they remained
emerges
stable,
a symbol of victory
calm,
and divine craftsmanship.
grounded.
The flames
And it
gently
frustrated
recede,
us
revealing the
because they
exquisite
knew
detail
who
of
they
a
were.
perfectly crafted golden
And that
crown,
knowledge
resting
acted
upon
like
an
a
ancient
shield.
stone altar.
The
It
ninth thing you
signifies
must
triumph
do
over adversity
is guard
and
your
spiritual
relationships.
refinement. Light glints
This is
off
very
its polished
important.
surface, a testament
During
to
this
perseverance
period,
and the
one
glory
of the
purification.
easiest ways
This
to
crown,
disrupt
forged in
someone's
fire,
year
stands
is
as a
through
beacon of hope
conflict,
and a promise of eternal
arguments,
victory.
misunderstandings,
Through trials, we are not
emotional
broken,
reactions.
but transformed.
Because
emerging
once a
stronger
relationship
and more
is
radiant.
damaged,
As ancient
it creates
doors,
a ripple
weathered by
effect.
time, begin their
Peace is
slow,
broken.
deliberate creak,
Focus
they
is
reveal
lost.
a profound journey
Energy
ahead.
is
A
drained.
brilliant,
And
warm
suddenly,
golden light pours
the
through
person
expanding
becomes
opening,
vulnerable.
illuminating
So
countless
be
dust
careful.
motes dancing in
Not
the air,
every
creating a
argument needs a
divine
response.
and ethereal atmosphere.
Not every
This
misunderstanding
radiant light
needs
guides our path
escalation.
forward, symbolizing
Sometimes
the divine
silence is
illumination that
protection.
accompanies steps of faith
I
and
remember
obedience.
how we would
Along this
sometimes
sacred path,
initiate
banners marked with
small
Christian crosses
conflicts,
gently sway in a
knowing
soft,
they would
unseen
grow
wind,
on their own.
representing
Because
unwavering faith.
once emotions
Each sway
take
of the banner
over
and
people,
every step
begin
forward
to
signifies a
destroy
commitment
things
to
themselves.
bold obedience,
Don't fall
trusting
into
in
that
the
trap.
unseen guidance.
Protect
The
your
journey
peace,
unfolds with
because
cinematic depth,
peace is not
inviting
weakness.
us to embrace the path
Peace
ahead
is
with
stability,
courage and
and
conviction.
stability
This
is
continuous
strength.
movement symbolizes
Now the 10th
ongoing
and final
journey of
thing,
obedience and faith,
and this is
where
the
each
most
step
important
reveals
of all.
more of the divine purpose.
Surrender your year
Embrace the light,
completely
follow the
to
path,
God,
and
not
walk in
partially,
bold obedience.
not
For the
conditionally,
journey of faith is
completely.
ever unfolding.
Because
In the
here
depths of
is the
darkness,
truth
the soul
I
stirs,
learned
a
after
quiet
leaving the
whisper in
coven.
the void. A
The greatest
profound journey
protection
begins
is
as
not
shadows
effort
cling,
alone,
yet a faint
it is
hope ignites
alignment.
within.
You
The
can do
chains
all
once
the right
binding now
actions,
shatter and fall
but
away,
if your heart
their
is not
fragments
aligned,
dissolving into the encroaching
there
light.
will always
This
be
liberation
gaps.
marks the first
But
step
when you
towards clarity.
surrender fully,
Shimmering mirrors
something
of light
shifts.
appear, reflecting
You are no
brilliant
longer
beams that
carrying
symbolize
everything
profound
alone.
clarity
You
and
are no longer
self-discovery.
trying to
These
control
radiant reflections
outcomes.
dance, guiding
You
the
are
way
trusting.
forward. A glowing
trust
ancient Bible
creates
appears center
peace.
frame, open
And
to a
peace
radiant
creates
page.
clarity.
Its presence is a
And
beacon,
clarity
a source of
leads to right
profound wisdom
decisions,
and divine truth.
which ultimately
Ethereal light
shapes your
rises
year.
from the pages
I remember
like a
the
sacred
moment
mist,
everything changed
spreading
for
holy
me.
illumination
I
outward,
was tired,
transforming the surroundings.
drained,
Spiritual
empty.
awakening blooms,
After
identity
years in
found in
darkness,
divine light. A
I
serene
realized
and radiant
something
realm.
was missing. all the rituals, all the control, all the
The skies
manipulation,
darken, and the winds
none of
begin
it
to whisper of
brought
things to come.
peace.
Yet,
And for the
even in
first
shadow,
time,
the
I
light cannot be
surrendered.
overcome. We
Not to a
watch and we
system,
wait.
not to a ritual, but to God. And in that moment,
The
everything
word
broke.
stands firm,
The
a beacon
fear,
on the rock of ages.
the heaviness,
Silence holds
the
the
confusion.
air, a held breath
It
before
was
the
like
trumpet sounds.
chains I didn't even know I was carrying suddenly fell off.
The seals break.
And that's
The
when I
mysteries of old
understood
begin to unfold before our
light
eyes.
doesn't fight
Thunder rolls,
the way darkness
not of rain,
does.
but of judgment
It
and
simply
redemption.
removes it. So, my dear brothers and sisters, as these final days of
For the
March
darkness is
2026
fleeing, and the
continue,
day is at hand.
you
Be ready.
have a
The time
choice
is now.
to ignore this and move forward casually, or to become
Under silent winter
intentional,
sky,
aware,
ancient city sleeps
and
in midnight
aligned.
blues and moonlight.
Because your year is
Snow
not
blanket
just
structures
something
awaiting
that
foretold
happens to
moment.
you.
Time.
It is
Fragile
something
vessel
that is
slowly
shaped.
empties. Hourglass
And right
sands
now,
dissolve
you
into
are in a
ethereal
moment
light,
where
marking
that
era's
shaping
end,
is still
culmination
in
of
your
waiting.
hands.
On weathered tower,
Don't wait.
ancient clock frozen
Don't
at divine
delay.
hour. Signifies
Don't
sacred
assume
pause,
there will be
profound
another
transition.
chance like
Whisper of
this,
change. Deep
because
indigo
moments
night
like
yields
this
to rosy
are
pinks
rare,
and oranges painting
and they pass
horizon,
quickly.
heralding new dawn.
Take these
Golden
steps
light breaks through
seriously.
parting clouds,
Apply them.
casting rays
Commit
across
to them.
awakening city.
Even if
Divine
it feels
illumination reveals
uncomfortable,
truth and purpose.
even if it feels
Against
new,
glorious light, radiant
because
cross
growth
emerges,
always
beacon of
requires
hope
movement.
and eternal promise.
And
Fulfills
movement
ancient
creates
prophecies.
change.
Ancient scrolls
I've seen what
unfurl,
happens
their
on
wisdom
both sides.
illuminated by golden light.
I've seen years
Speak of divine
destroyed
timing
before
now
they even
manifest.
began.
Finally, solemn
And
church
I've
bells
seen
echo through dawn,
lives
calling awakening.
completely
Long night
transformed
past, divine
because
guided
someone
new day begins.
chose to
In realms
act at
beyond
the
our
right
sight,
time.
a
So
sacred
choose
truth
wisely,
unfolds,
choose
speaking of
awareness,
divine election
choose
and eternal
alignment,
choice.
choose
Before
light.
time began, a
And as
profound
you
purpose
do,
was set, guiding
you will
destinies
not
with
only
unwavering
secure
grace.
your year,
These ancient texts,
you will begin to
imbued with
walk in a
celestial
level
light,
of peace,
reveal the timeless
clarity,
wisdom of a higher
and
plan.
strength
From the
that you
heavens,
have never
rays of pure light
experienced
descend,
before.
illuminating a singular
And that
path through the
is
deepest
the life
darkness.
you were always
Each
meant to
particle of
live.
light,